my friend Ashley is the author of Not Quite Snow White. You probably, hey, Ashley, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm gonna turn up my volume a little so I can hear you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, how have you been lately?
Well, I've been pretty good. I'm super excited, of course, since we finally got to announce that the sequel to Not Quite Snow White's coming out.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's super cool. And also, and illustrated again by, sorry for the shaking, illustrated again by Ebony Glenn.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about, well, first, can you tell us a little about yourself and how you got into writing and,
Sure.
Yeah. And then maybe a little about Not Quite Snow White as well.
All right. So if you're just joining and you don't know, hi, I'm Ashley Franklin, and I'm actually, aside from being a writer, I'm a mom. I have 2 boys, ages 6 and 8, and they are my inspiration and my distraction all at once.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. And also, part-time, I do content for a few social media companies. And also, I am an adjunct college professor. I teach English composition.
Yes, I knew that. How's that going?
That is, I feel almost a little bit bad about that because I've been teaching online for almost 10 years. And so, everything moving to the online platforms and systems, that's where I live at, but my heart goes out to all the other educators, who are traditionally been on campus, in the classrooms that were literally just thrown into working online, especially if that's not something you ever considered doing, because it's a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's not the same, you have to adjust your teaching strategies and pedagogy and all of that. It's a different game.
And you're usually teaching college students, right?
Yes, I do.
So they're also on the older end. So it's hopefully they're a little more tech savvy on the receiving end.
They are. It's wild because when I first started, I thought, okay, I'm teaching English comp. So I assumed that it would be like 18, 19-year-olds, just fresh out of high school, but it's really not the case. Most of the students that I teach are actually coming back to school. I always have a good mix of students. Some of them will be like 18, 19, like I said, but I have like grandmas, grandpas, people who are just interested in changing careers midway, and it leads to great discussions when we have discussion boards because we just have all experiences that can come in and just give their opinions and advice.
Do you think that helps your writing, being able to teach writing and talk about that? And I know I don't do too much teaching, but sometimes when I talk about ways to write picture books, or I give people tips, or even just give someone a critique, it's like, whoa, I'm totally giving advice that I should be listening to myself more.
Yes, especially when it comes to giving critiques and accepting advice and thinking about different perspectives. That helps me tremendously, especially if I'm stuck on a manuscript. Just remembering, okay, I need to look at this a different way. This experience, is it overly specific to my experience? How might someone else approach the situation?
Yeah, that's good. So tell me a little bit about how your first book came to be, and tell me about it. Not Quite Snow White.
Yeah, Not Quite Snow White. That is totally a gem, thanks to Tara Lazar and Story Storm. I think it was, I never knew how to say it originally, like Pibo Idmo, Peebo Idmo. How did you say it? I have no idea.
I will ask her when I have her on. Thank you, by the way, for being able to fill in last minute, because originally she was supposed to be on tonight, but she's out on a vacation somewhere, and the Wi-Fi was bad, she said. She's like, and so I'll ask her. I feel like I've heard her confirm it one way or the other, but I'm not sure anymore. But that's why she changed it to Story Storm. So
we can all say that. We know how it should sound. So that's awesome. Yeah. So like I said, it was an idea that I came up with in those 30 days. And what I wrote down exactly was princess book, but Black. I knew I wanted a story that represented me, someone who looked like
Yeah.
me. And I knew princesses, they never go out of style. Let's be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Princesses are always popular, but unfortunately, there aren't a lot of Black or princesses of colors who are represented in stories. And I wanted to change that. And I am all for going big or going home, you know, in this industry, you know, as a new writer. I don't know if I'm going to have another book out, you know. So my approach to Not Quite Snow White, I was like, I'm going to give this story everything it could possibly have. You know, I didn't want it to just be a one princess book. I wanted it to be the princess book that could apply to any girl, just any situation.
Yeah.
And it actually has gone beyond just girls as well because of some of the themes, you know. And Not Quite Snow White, just very quickly, if you're unfamiliar with the book, it features a young Black girl named Tamika, and she's good at singing, acting, dancing. She can do it all, but she's never played the role of a princess, and she gets the opportunity to audition for her school's musical. And after the audition, she hears some of the other kids, you know, saying that she might not be fit to play Snow White because of how she looks. You know, she's a little chubby, you know, she is African American, she's a little bit taller. And so if you think of the average princess that is around, that's really not what you think of. And so you get to see how Tamika handles this. You know, does she rise to the occasion? What happens? How she handles who she goes to for comfort. And I tried to layer all of that in there. So you've got the body positivity. You've got the, okay, who do you go to, you know, when times are bad, when you feel bad? Who is your support system, you know? And also just words, the impact of words. Yes, you can say whatever you want. You have the freedom of speech, but there are consequences that go along with that. You just should be aware that you have responsibility with the things that you say. So I tried to pack a lot into a little 500-word picture book, you know, so everyone could get something out of it.
I keep looking at my bookshelf. So every copy I've bought, I've given away. But I did have an F and G at some point, but I'm not going to go look for it right now. I don't think it's still there. But there's that one page that you were referring to, which is the part where her students are talking about her. She can't be Snow White. She's too brown, too fat. And like, that page, I just get chills every time I read that page because that's just, it's packed with emotion. Yeah. And I mean, part of it, you know, the illustration, her face, when she's overhearing her classmates. But yeah, it's very, very powerful. It's a very powerful book. And I'm glad it's got the attention that it has. It's been in Target. That's amazing.
That's wild to me. It's like, it's where? Like, you can get groceries and pick up my book. Stop.
Yeah. Well, I have friends who joke around like, you know, oh, it's a Target book, and it's oftentimes, you know, the bestsellers or whatever. But and hopefully it is a bestseller. But you know, you don't always see the right book at Target. Not that there's anything wrong with the bestsellers, but yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing. And I mean, having a book at Target is a pretty big bucket list career thing that most of us have never had. And I also think that, you know, you talk about, you know, wanting to pack all this into this one book because you don't know when the next one is. That feeling doesn't go away. I mean, I have a bunch of books out, but every time, you know, I'm writing something new or we've got a bunch of rejections lately, you feel like, am I ever going to sell another one? Is maybe I was just lucky with the first one. And so it's, yeah. And that's the way to do it though. Make the most out of every book that you write. Get the most out of it. So you were just able to announce the sequel, which is super cool. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that process and what the sequel's about.
Okay, it was just amazing. Like, Not Quite Snow White, it has been just well received, more than I ever imagined. And I didn't know what to expect, honestly, like I said, as a new author. So the first big thing was the fact that it earned out in about 6 months. You know, I had people tell me, you know, it's your first book, you know, of course you want to hope that you earn out, but, you know, don't put too much, you know, stock into that. And so I was like, should I have the bar high? Should I have it low? I really didn't know what to expect, like I said. And so just that hurdle, I was like, oh my goodness.
So for those who don't know what earning out is, it's when, I'm assuming that mostly, I don't know who watches this, but if it's mostly writers, you know what it is. But earning out is you get an advance. And so let's say you get an advance that's $1,000 for your book. And let's say you make $1 a book. You won't make any more money until the 1,001st book sells.
Right.
And so those are just made up numbers. They're probably not too much different than what real numbers often are, especially for picture book authors with your first book. But that's, yeah, so that's what earning out is. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off though. You were talking about the sequel. Yes, please continue.
Yes, the sequel is called Better Together, Cinderella. And so, yes, I'm still capitalizing off of the whole princess thing, because to me, I felt like the first book, we tell and we show, you know, you can be any princess. In this second book, we're going to give you a little slice of what that royal life could actually be like.
And it's still about Tamika and her family?
Yes, it is still about Tamika and her family. Her family has actually grown. Tamika is now a big sister.
Yeah.
And
that's
so, yes, all the feelings that go with that, because as you know, she was the star of every show, but this show now has an amazing cast of new characters with her siblings.
Right. Very cool. So I wanted to ask you, I think faith has a lot of influence on your writing. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that. You don't have to if you don't want, but it seems like it's something that's important to you. And I think that is great. And I would love to hear any thoughts you have.
Okay. I will dive into this from a couple different angles.
It's okay. If you don't want to answer that.
Josh, it's fine. Relax.
Okay. Sorry.
Faith has always been important to me. I am a Muslim, so I practice Islam, and I'm actually a convert. I grew up in the Christian church, you know, grandmother dragging me to church, mom took me to church, you know, in the choir, junior usher, all of that. Junior missionary, going into nursing home singing, Yes, Jesus Loves Me. That was me. That's how I grew up. Faith is a part of my family. You know, you sit down to the table, you're saying grace. You know, when times are hard, you're going to pray. When times are great, you're still going to pray because you're thankful. You know, prayer is ingrained, you know, as a part of just a daily part of your existence as your life. And so that did not change when I changed religions. I just changed the way in which I practiced. So to me, just my writing is full of that faith. First of all, I have to have faith that I will find the words to convey the message that I want to, that it comes across clearly to the readers. You know, I'm someone that I hope that when my words are read, that they resonate with the reader, that they're left with something. I want them to feel special, hopeful even. I want a lasting impression that, you know what, hey, they like my book. Maybe that'll be a gateway for them to read my next book, or a book that, you know, they didn't really expect that they liked it or something, and they'll go find another book. You know, my book could be the gateway book for more reading along the way. And I think just having those good intentions, I think it goes a long way, especially when I sit down to write, because like any other writer, I have those moments when the words aren't coming to me. And I just, like, maybe I'm not going about it the right way. So I look to spirituality. I look for that comfort, like, I will get this when the time comes, you know, because it can be so despairing, you know, because so much of this business is subjective. You don't know how it's going to go. You don't know if it's going to go left, right, sideways. I feel like you have to have a strong center to weather any storm that may come. Yeah. And so it helps me tremendously in that way. And my characters, some of them are Muslim, some of them are not, you know. And for me, that's also something that I deal with as a writer. You know, all right, I have this character, I have this concept. But in my mind, you know, were they Muslim first? Does that matter? How does religion come to play? Are they spiritual? Are they religious? Are they just enjoying the moment? Those are the type of questions I ask myself, because I usually come up with characters first. And so it's helpful to me to know more about the character, because it determines how they would approach the situation.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like I probably come up with, I mean, it varies sometimes it's character first, but sometimes I feel like for me, it's more of the situation. And, and something's gonna, whether it's like a cool thing that could happen, like, oh, they could time travel back to the 90s, or if it's something where it's like, these two characters would fight about this, but I don't know who those characters are. And I think that actually makes it hard a lot when you're writing, is to try to retroactively fit characters into a situation. So I'm a little jealous in some ways that you can come up with characters first, and it's something that I'm constantly learning. I have a bunch of books, but I'm still brand new to this world, and I think that it's important to keep learning, and part of that's part of the journey. But yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with that. Bad interviewer. So I also wanted to ask you, so we've known each other for, I didn't actually look and when the first time we connected on Twitter was, but probably like 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
Because at one point when you were querying, you mentioned it on Twitter, and I was like, hey, if you ever want to connect with my agent, I'm sure she'd be interested in connecting with you. And you're like, really? You sure? And I was like, yeah, I'll send you along. And so, but you eventually did, and I think you had multiple agents that were interested in you at the time. But you've been working with the same agent that I have, Kat, for a little while, and so I mean, that's part of why I wanted to do this kind of show, is we've never actually spoken in person. We've emailed about things before. We were supposed to be on a panel together at NCTE that unfortunately, for circumstances out of our control, we couldn't all get to. But it's really cool to talk to you for the first time. I wanted to ask if you had any books that you're really into right now that you might want to share, even if you don't have them handy. But just ones. It's okay. Just stuff that you've been reading lately, that you've been liking, anything.
Okay, well, I've been reading a lot with my kids. We have widely different tastes in this household, and we honestly just went to the library 2 days ago, and I always have to put a limit on how many books each person can get, or we end up one of those giant cart things, and I'm lugging them out to the car, and I'm like, oh gosh.
We have a basket. It's like a picnic basket, and I think we're on our second or third one over the last decade because we've worn them out. But I highly recommend it. It's got a handle that goes over the top, and whenever someone's done and ready for it to go back, we put it in the basket, and it always sits kind of like near the door, and so that way we know. And but yeah, so anyway, it's easier to carry, I think, than putting them in just in a stack or in your purse or whatever. But you have rolling like grocery carts in your library. That would be cool.
It's like a basket, but it has like a high handle you can pull up, and you just like roll it behind you.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Those type of things.
Yeah.
And at one point, we each had our own. I was like, this is getting ridiculous. Like, we can come back to the library and get more books, So, books that I'm currently into.
Or your kids.
Yeah, my kids are, okay, my 6-year-old, he just turned 6 like a couple weeks ago.
Happy birthday.
Right? He's really into science and nature. Mind you, he's scared to death of most things outside and bugs, but he'll read about them.
Okay.
So he picked up like a spider tarantula book, and I'm like, you don't even like flies. And so
like with the actual pictures?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
With the actual pictures. So he's really into that. So we've been doing that. I think my 8-year-old, he's into graphic novels a lot, but he also likes dogs and animals and puppies and things. So anything puppy-centered, fiction, nonfiction, we're clearing out that section of the library. Okay. He adores it. And as for me, I picked up some fairy tales recently. I've been revisiting those, some of the classics, but I felt like I don't know enough about African fairy tales and folk tales and things of that nature. Yeah. And so I picked up a couple volumes of those that I've been digging into, and so I'm super excited about that.
Oh, awesome. If they're, tweet them out if they're any good. I'd love to check them out. Yeah. I've done some of my own fairy tale research at times, and some of the stories are a lot more boring than you'd think. But yeah, like Little Red Riding Hood, it's not really even long enough for a picture book in many cases. You really have to stretch that out. But yeah. So another question. You are originally from the Maryland area, is that correct?
I'm originally from Salisbury, Maryland, so I'm from the Eastern Shore. Yes.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, my wife is from the Baltimore area, so we're back there very often. Yeah, I think if she's still there, my sister-in-law just joined. Hi, Allie. So yeah, do you ever get back to Maryland to visit family, or are they all gone from there?
My family is scattered all over. I want to say it's been about a year since I was back in the area. Yeah, it's not quite Snow White. I went back home for the book launch. You know, they always say surround yourself with friends and family.
Yeah.
And I love Arkansas, and I've made lots of friends here. You know, I have, people I've met and encountered, especially, weirdly enough, the librarians.
That's not weird at all. What are you talking about?
Because I know, but it's like they're so super supportive. They're almost like on that family level. They're like, hey, how's your next book? I'll go in. Hey, you doing research? They know the kids. They're high-fiving them and everything. It's like, wow, you guys are amazing. And so, yeah, it's been about a year since I've been back. So
how'd you end up in Arkansas?
For my launch. How'd I end up in Arkansas? Louisiana kept trying to drown us. I was there for a few years. And, one flood, all right, it's Louisiana. The second one, over that, we're going to try a different state. So
all right. Interesting. Yeah. Where was there a bookstore in Salisbury, or did you?
I went to Barnes and Noble.
Oh, okay.
In Salisbury, and they were
cool.
Super nice. And the wonderful thing about that was my grandma got to come, and she'd been having a rough time with Parkinson's, and so the fact that she was there and she was so loud. I hadn't heard her be that loud in ages. She was just so proud of me. I lived with my grandma a lot when I was younger, and she was just yelling out, "That's my baby! That's my baby!"
That's amazing.
It was wonderful, and so I was glad that I did, make that choice to do like book launches and things with my family, because that's something I'll never forget.
Yeah, the first book launch, I think I'm not going to quote exactly right. Although I did ask him at one point, Jared Krasowska said that a friend of his said, your first book launch is like a wake, but happy, because it's bigger than a wedding. Basically, people you wouldn't have invited to your wedding show up, right? Like people come from like you right? But yeah, and then so that's. Jared did, I have it in a presentation, and I got the exact quote officially from him that I can look up at some point because I want to say it right. But yes, your second book launch is smaller, but your debut book launch, yeah, it's similar to a wake, because people you wouldn't have even invited to a wedding will show up, but happy.
Wow.
But yeah, so well, that's cool. We get to there's the Ivy Bookshop and the children's bookshop, which are both in Baltimore, that I've been to a bunch of times, and they're super cool. So if you ever get back towards that area, you should
I'll check them out.
Check them out. So I have my hat that I pick random questions out of a hat, 5 random questions that I wrote at one point, and you're welcome to contribute any random questions if you want. And I'm going to pick 5 random questions, and you have to answer them. Okay. Mario or Link? Mario. Okay. Yeah. You're not a Zelda fan?
No, just Mario's old school. I have more experience with Mario.
Okay. Cool. Do you play them at all now?
No.
No. Okay. Well, my son's got the Switch, and I mean we all play a little bit, but my wife's really into the Animal Crossing. But
I know myself, and I know I don't need the extra distraction, because I loved video games. Yeah. Thank you, BJ. That's my brother on there. Yes, Mario for life.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would go with Link. The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for Super Nintendo was my favorite game ever. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask my son though. But okay, Mario it is. Rollercoaster or Ferris wheel?
Rollercoaster, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Do you like the upside down ones?
It doesn't matter. I've never turned down a roller coaster.
Never? Okay, cool. Do you have a favorite?
The Superman was pretty cool.
Yeah. What they have? Is it the same one at every park? At
I
every
think
Six Flags?
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my kids to go. So there's a Six Flags in New England we went to a couple summers ago, and it's really tall, right? The Superman.
Yeah.
No one would go on it with me at one point. And so I didn't go on that one. I went on the Joker, which I think like sends you forward and then backward.
Yeah.
And I went on that, and I went on the Batman, which was cool, but the Joker was a little more interesting. But
Yeah.
I think I was even a little intimidated by the Superman, but it was good. All right.
Good. It was
All right.
good.
All right. What's your favorite instrument to listen to that you cannot play?
That could be absolutely any instrument because I'm horrible with instruments.
Well, what's your favorite instrument then to listen to?
Well, I really like drums.
Drums. Okay.
Yes, my little brother is actually a drummer, and I love that. But
The one who's watching?
Different one.
Okay.
My little brother Devin, he's a drummer, and I love just the drums can really put you in a zone. They can help you to mellow out, or they can really amp you up, and I just love the variation of it.
Great, that's awesome. I like that answer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very cool. I mean, I'm not judging or anything, but let's see. Have you ever had poison ivy?
Nope, not never.
Really? Wait,
No.
not never?
Not ever, never.
Wow.
I've never
Okay.
had poison ivy before. You?
Yeah, probably a bunch of times. And like in the DC area, I used to get poison. I got poison ivy once, and then definitely like when I was a kid at camp and things like that, I would get it all the time. Never got poison ivy. Okay, that's nice. You were stung by a bee? That's not a question.
Just once.
Just once? Okay. All right. That's good. Although now I'm gonna add that.
Wait,
as a
what?
question. I mean, that wasn't a question like from a 5 questions. So, oh, okay. Last question. Do you personally know anyone named Gary?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. Is it a real name? Is there, or is it just made up? Like, is Gary one of those names? Like, because have you ever met a baby named Gary? Think about that.
I've never taught at Gary, and I've been teaching for a long time.
Can you imagine a baby named Gary? Oh, little Gary. No, Gary is not a baby.
Gary's a grown man name. It's just,
Right. But they had to be babies at some point, right?
Yeah. Or
But maybe
not.
they're not. I don't know. I could think of like Gary Shandling was a comedian or something. But I don't know. Anyway, Gary. Okay. Well, thank you. Those are my 5 questions. Where can people find you on social media? Obviously here on Instagram.
Yes, on Instagram, I'm Ashley Franklin Writes. On Twitter, I am Different Ashley. And I'm also Ashley Franklin on Facebook.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me. And I'm really glad that you're able to take the time. Is there anything else you wanted to plug before we go? I mean, I think everyone, every classroom, every family should own a copy of Not Quite Snow White, in my opinion. It's a great gift for if you're giving gifts that are picture books for people for baby showers, for anything. Other than that, do you have anything else you want to share?
Anything else I want to share? No, I just want to say thanks. Thanks to everyone who's constantly supported me. Thanks to the other writers who have been more than willing to answer my questions along the way, particularly you. You and Tara, I harass you guys all the time.
I don't really feel that way. So, feel free to harass me more. It's totally fine.
Thank you. Just thanks to everyone for the support and for giving Not Quite Snow White a chance and the opportunity for me to write a second book. And I hope to always be given,
and hopefully many more.
Yeah, I hope I can, be given that chance to write more characters with big hearts and big dreams.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much and have a great night. Everyone get Not Quite Snow White.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.